Fiancée dumped me, but shocked I threw her out of my house and took back the ring. So where do I even start with this? My ex-fiancée Laura dumped me out of nowhere, and honestly, I'm still trying to figure out what the hell happened. I thought everything was good between us, like, yeah, we had our ups and downs, but who doesn't, right? We'd been together for 4 years, we were planning to get married, and then boom, well, not that word, but you get me. She tells me we need to break up. And her reason? My job. Yeah, you read that right. My damn job at my family's restaurant. Now I get it. My hours are kind of weird. I work evenings, and by the time I'm home, she's already been off work for like 3 or 4 hours. But this isn't news. She's known this since day one. Like before we even got engaged, she knew my schedule was all over the place. I work late shifts. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. I'm there from 4:30 to 9 p.m., Fridays and Saturdays a little later. But it's not like I'm never around. We had Sundays, some mornings, and even most of Saturdays before my shift started. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. But Laura? Nah, she starts talking about how we barely see each other and that I need to find a new job because she's tired of waiting around for me to get home every night. She works 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m., so she gets off way earlier than me, and I guess she didn't like having to fill that time alone. I mean, it sucks, sure, but I always thought we were making it work. I even offered for her to work with me at the restaurant. I thought it was a pretty solid idea. We could spend more time together, she wouldn't be bored waiting around, and we'd save up more money for the wedding. But nope, she shot that down quick. Said she didn't feel comfortable working for my parents. Okay, cool, fine, whatever, I respected that. I didn't push it because I didn't want her to feel awkward or anything, but then she kept bringing up my job. Every few weeks it was like, when are you going to find something better? Or, I just don't see how this is sustainable. It started to get on my nerves because, like, how many times do I have to say I'm happy where I'm at? I love working for my family. The restaurant's been in the family for years, and yeah, the hours are long sometimes, but it's worth it. So one night she just sat me down and was like, Ethan, I can't do this anymore. I thought she was kidding at first, but nope, she was dead serious. She told me that if I wasn't going to change jobs, she couldn't see how we could ever get married. It totally blindsided me. I tried to tell her that we could figure it out, like maybe there's a way to balance things better, but she wasn't having any of it. She said she needed more from me. More time, more effort, more commitment to our future. Whatever that means. I told her I was committed. I mean, we were literally planning a wedding, so how much more committed can you get? What really stung is that she said she felt like I didn't care enough about her needs. Like, excuse me? I've been busting my ass working late shifts so we could save up for our future. It's not like I'm out partying or ignoring her. I'm working. For us. I thought that would count for something, but apparently not. Then she dropped the whole, maybe we should just be friends thing, and man, that was a gut punch. We weren't even in an argument. There was no yelling, no big fight. It was just her, sitting there calmly, like she'd been rehearsing this conversation in her head for weeks. I asked her straight up, are you serious? You want to throw all this away because of my job? And she had the nerve to say, it's not just your job, it's the fact that you don't seem willing to change for us. That's when I got pissed. I reminded her that she knew about my schedule before we even got engaged. If it was such a problem for her, why the hell did she agree to marry me in the first place? She got all defensive and said that she thought, over time, I'd grow out of it and find something else. Like, what? Since when is working hard at a family business something you need to grow out of? I'm not gonna lie, I felt betrayed. She basically admitted that she was waiting for me to become some different version of myself, and when that didn't happen, she was out. After that conversation, I just avoided her. I couldn't even look at her. I stayed late at work every night because the last thing I wanted to do was come home and sit in the same house with someone who didn't want to be with me anymore. But here's the thing. She didn't leave. Like, I thought after you break up with someone, especially when you're engaged, you'd start looking for somewhere else to stay, right? Nope. She kept acting like nothing had changed, like we were just roommates now or something. Every time I came home, she was there, chilling on the couch, watching TV like everything was fine. It made me feel sick, honestly. How could she break up with me and still live under my roof like nothing happened? So one night I finally told her, Laura, you need to move out. We're not together anymore, and this isn't working for me. And get this, she looked at me like I had two heads. She was like, are you serious? You're kicking me out? I told her, yeah, I am. We're not getting married anymore, so what's the point of living together? She tried to guilt trip me, saying she had nowhere to go and that I was being heartless for making her leave. At that point, I was just done. I told her she could stay with her parents until she figured things out. And then, to top it all off, I asked for the ring back. You'd think I just slapped her or something. She freaked out. saying I gave it to her and that I couldn't just ask for it back. I told her straight up, that ring was for our wedding, and since we're not getting married, I want it back. She called me greedy, said I could afford another one if I really loved her, and that I was being an asshole for trying to kick her out after all we've been through. At that point, I couldn't even argue anymore. I just wanted her gone. So after I told Laura she needed to move out, things got real awkward real fast. I mean, you'd think she would have just packed her bags and left, right? But nope, she stuck around like she was waiting for something. At first, I thought she was just dragging her feet, trying to figure out where to go. I mean, it's not like she didn't have options. Her parents live nearby and she's got friends she could crash with. But instead, she just stayed. And I gotta tell you, those few days after the breakup were the most uncomfortable days of my life. We were living like strangers in the same house. She'd sit on one side of the room, I'd be on the other, and it was just this weird silence. No one wanted to be the first to talk. I'd get home from work and she'd already be there, watching TV or doing her thing. But it felt like this giant elephant was sitting between us, and neither of us wanted to deal with it. But then it got worse. One day, I come home and Laura is sitting at the kitchen table with my mom. Yeah, you read that right. My mom. Apparently, she had called my mom over without even telling me. So I walk in, and they're sitting there having coffee like everything's totally normal. I was so confused. My mom looks at me and goes, "Ethan, we need to talk." I was already annoyed at that point, but I tried to keep calm. I mean, it's my mom, right? I sit down and Laura starts telling her side of the story, saying she doesn't have anywhere to go, and how it's unfair that I'm asking her to move out so soon after the breakup. And then my mom, bless her heart, starts suggesting that maybe we should work something out and that Laura could stay for a bit longer while she figures things out. I couldn't believe it. Like what? I just stared at them for a second before saying, "Mom, we're not together anymore. Why would I let her stay here?" My mom, always the peacekeeper, goes, "Well, she needs time to figure things out. It's not easy to just up and move, you know." I tried to stay calm, but I was fuming inside. I mean, yeah, it's not easy, but we broke up. We're not a couple anymore, so why should I have to put up with this? I looked at Laura and said, "You've had time. It's been almost a week. You need to leave." And then, of course, Laura gets all emotional, saying she thought I was better than this, that she never expected me to just toss her out like trash. She even starts tearing up in front of my mom, and I swear, it was like she was trying to make me look like the bad guy. My mom, at this point, starts trying to smooth things over, saying, "Ethan, maybe you could give her a little more time. You two were together for so long. It's not easy to just end things like this." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own mom was taking Laura's side. I love my mom, but this was not her call to make. I told her straight up, "Mom, this isn't your business. Laura and I are done. She needs to go." And that's when Laura pulls the ultimate guilt trip. She looks me dead in the eyes and says, "If you really loved me, you wouldn't be doing this. I thought you cared about me." Man, that hit me hard. I didn't want to be the bad guy here, but at the same time, how long was I supposed to let this drag on? She's the one who ended things, not me. And now she's trying to flip it like I'm the one being unreasonable. I stood my ground, though. I told her, "I do care, but we're not together anymore, and this isn't your home. You need to move on." Laura stormed out of the room, and my mom just sat there looking all disappointed, like I was the one who messed everything up. She gave me this look and said, "I just hope you're doing the right thing." That messed with me for a while. Like, was I being too harsh? Should I have given her more time? But then I thought about how she'd been dragging this out, trying to stay in the house, making me feel uncomfortable in my own place. And I knew I wasn't in the wrong. This was my house, my space, and she was just trying to manipulate the situation to make herself the victim. The next day I come home and Laura is gone. Her stuff's still there, but she's not home. At first, I felt this huge relief, thinking maybe she finally decided to move out. But nope, it was just another game. She comes back late that night, acting all nonchalant like nothing happened. She didn't say a word to me, just went straight to the bedroom and shut the door. At this point, I was done. I couldn't deal with this anymore. I texted her, telling her she had until the end of the week to get her stuff out and leave, or I was going to start the eviction process. I know it sounds harsh, but what else was I supposed to do? She wasn't taking me seriously, and I wasn't about to spend another week living in this weird, messed up situation. And get this. She texts back, "I can't believe you're being like this. I thought we could at least be friends, but you're treating me like I'm some stranger." That's when I realized she wasn't ever going to leave unless I forced her to. She was playing this whole thing like a game, trying to get me to cave, maybe hoping I'd apologize or something and beg her to stay. but I wasn't about to do that. Not after everything she'd put me through. By the end of the week, Laura finally started packing her stuff. It was like this big dramatic scene every time she moved a box. She'd huff and puff, making a show of it like she wanted me to feel sorry for her. But I didn't. I mean, I felt bad that things ended the way they did, but I wasn't about to let her stay just because she didn't feel like moving. And then came the ring. The damn ring. I thought we were done with that conversation, but nope. She tries to pull it again, saying, "I can't believe you're actually asking for the ring back. You know I cared about you?" I didn't even argue this time. I just told her, "We're not getting married. The ring was for the wedding. No wedding, no ring." She gave me this look, like I was the biggest jerk on the planet, but she finally gave it back. And honestly, when she handed it over, I felt this huge weight lift off my shoulders. It was like the final chapter of our relationship was closing, and I could finally move on. Now, it's been a few days since she left, and honestly, I feel better than I have in months. It's weird not having her around, but it's also kind of freeing. I don't have to walk on eggshells in my own house, and I don't have to deal with her trying to guilt trip me every 5 seconds. Do I miss her? Yeah, a little, but not enough to go back to that mess. Sometimes things just need to end, and dragging them out only makes it worse. Update 1. So after Laura finally moved out, I thought things would settle down, right? Like, we're done, she's gone, I can finally get back to normal, but man, I was wrong, things got weird real fast. First of all, I didn't even realize how much stuff she had left behind. It was like every room in the house had some random item of hers. I'm talking about clothes, books, even her toothbrush was still in the bathroom. I wasn't going to touch it at first, but then a couple of days went by, and I was like, okay, this is getting ridiculous. So I started packing up her things and putting them in boxes. Figured I'd drop them off at her parents' house or something, be done with it. But then, while I was going through her stuff, I found something that threw me off. I don't even know how to explain it, but I found this notebook she had hidden in one of her drawers. Now, I'm not the kind of guy who snoops through people's stuff, but, I mean, she left it here, right? So I opened it, and it was like this whole diary of complaints about me and our relationship. Stuff like, Ethan never listens to me. He doesn't care about my feelings. Why can't he just get a normal job like other guys? It was like reading a list of everything she hated about me, and I gotta be honest, it messed with my head. I know relationships aren't perfect, but seeing all of that written out, page after page, was rough. I had no idea she felt that way. I thought we had our issues, but I didn't think it was that bad. And the worst part? She wrote about how she'd been thinking about breaking up with me for months, but was just waiting for the right time. Like, what does that even mean? The right time to end someone's life plans? I couldn't believe she was sticking around, pretending everything was fine, when in reality, she was already halfway out the door. So after reading all that, I just felt this weird combination of anger and sadness. Like I knew the relationship was over, but finding that notebook made it so much more real. It wasn't just a breakup because of work schedules. It was like she had been mentally checked out for a long time, and I didn't even see it. I sat there for a while just staring at the pages, trying to figure out if I missed something or if I'd been completely blind this whole time. And then it hit me. She never really wanted to marry me. She just wanted me to be someone I wasn't. She wanted me to quit my job, change my life, and become this ideal version of myself that didn't exist. No wonder she broke up with me. I could never live up to what she wanted. I put the notebook away and tried to distract myself, but it kept eating at me. I couldn't stop thinking about everything she wrote. It was like this nagging voice in the back of my head, reminding me that maybe I wasn't good enough. That's the thing about breakups. They make you question everything. You start overanalyzing every conversation, every argument, every time you said, "I love you," and wonder if any of it meant what you thought it did. A few days later, Laura texts me. I hadn't heard from her since she moved out, and honestly, I wasn't expecting to. But her text wasn't what I thought it'd be. She didn't want to check in or talk about the breakup. Nope. She wanted to come by and pick up a few things. Like, okay, you've already been gone for over a week, and now you want to come back and get your stuff? I agreed, but I told her to give me a heads up before she came over. I didn't want any surprises. The last thing I needed was to walk in and find her there without warning. So she comes over, and it's as awkward as you'd imagine. She barely looked at me when she walked in, just went straight to grabbing her stuff like she couldn't wait to get out of there. I was standing in the living room, trying to act normal, but the whole situation felt so off. Like we'd shared this life together, we'd been planning a wedding, and now it was like she was just a stranger coming to collect her things. But then something weird happened. As she was grabbing her stuff, she stopped and looked at me. For the first time in days, we actually made eye contact, and she just stood there. Like she wanted to say something, but couldn't get the words out. I don't know why, but I felt like I had to say something. So I asked, "Is everything okay?" And then she said something I'll never forget. She goes, "I didn't want it to end like this." I didn't know how to respond. What was I supposed to say? We're already here. It's already over. I just stood there, not knowing what to say, and she looked at me like she was waiting for me to fix everything. But I couldn't. How was I supposed to fix something that had been broken for months, maybe even years, and I didn't even realize it? She grabbed the last of her stuff and left without saying another word. The door closed, and just like that, she was gone again. It was this weird mix of relief and sadness. Like I was glad the whole mess was finally over, but at the same time, it felt like this huge chapter of my life had closed, and I wasn't ready for it. After she left, I did something I never thought I'd do. I called up a therapist. I know, sounds dramatic, but I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe there was something wrong with me. Maybe I missed something huge in our relationship, or maybe I just wasn't cut out for this whole long-term commitment thing. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I figured talking to someone outside of the situation might help. Turns out, talking to someone who doesn't know you or your ex is actually pretty helpful. The therapist didn't give me all the answers or anything, but she made me realize that I wasn't the only one to blame for what happened. Relationships are two-sided, and as much as I messed up in some areas, Laura had her part in it too. I wasn't perfect, but I wasn't the villain in this story either. One thing that really stuck with me from those sessions was the idea that sometimes people fall in love with the idea of someone, not who they really are. And looking back, I think that's what Laura did with me. She wanted me to be this version of myself that didn't exist, and when I didn't become that person, she started to check out. So here I am, a couple of months later, feeling better. Not great, but better. I still think about her sometimes, and yeah, I wonder what could have been different. But I also know that if she stayed, things probably would have gotten worse. We weren't right for each other, and that's just the truth. I guess the takeaway is, sometimes things end for a reason. It sucks and it hurts, but in the long run, it's better than forcing something that's never going to work. Update 2. So, after Laura left for good, I thought that was it. End of the story, right? Well, turns out, things weren't as done as I thought they were. I didn't realize just how many loose ends there were until I started getting messages from mutual friends. Yeah, it's one of those situations. It started off slow. I'd get a text here and there from people asking me how I was doing, which was fine, but then they'd drop these little comments like, "Laura said she's really struggling," or "Have you heard from her?" At first, I just brushed it off. I figured people were just being polite, trying to feel out where we were at after the breakup. But then the tone of the messages started to change. People were acting like I was the one who kicked her to the curb with no warning. And I'm sitting here like, did Laura not tell people she's the one who broke up with me? Apparently not. Next thing I know, I'm getting these long, guilt-trippy messages from some of her friends, people I barely even know, telling me that I was heartless for making her move out and asking for the ring back. Like, excuse me? She broke up with me. I wasn't about to keep living with my ex-fiancée, pretending everything's fine while she's out there telling people I'm the bad guy. But according to her, I'm the one who didn't care enough to work things out. So now I'm stuck in this weird situation where people are seeing me as the villain of the story and she's playing the victim. It's honestly mind-blowing how fast things can get flipped around. I had to start explaining to people what actually happened, and every time I did, it just felt exhausting. Like, why do I even have to defend myself? A week or two goes by, and I think things are finally dying down. I stopped getting the messages, stopped hearing from people about Laura, and I started to relax. But of course, that didn't last long. One night, I'm sitting at home watching TV, trying to unwind after a long shift at the restaurant, and my phone buzzes. It's a text from Laura's best friend, Jenna. Now, Jenna and I never really got along. She was always the type to get in Laura's ear, telling her what to do, stirring the pot, you know? So when I saw her name pop up on my phone, I knew it wasn't going to be good. I opened the message, and sure enough, it's a novel. Jenna goes on and on about how Laura is devastated, how I broke her heart by not fighting for the relationship, and how I should have tried harder to make things work. She even said something like, "You're supposed to be a team and you just gave up on her." I was so angry I could barely even respond. But I did. I texted her back and I kept it short and simple. I said, "Laura broke up with me. She's the one who wanted out. I'm not going to beg someone to stay when they don't want to." Of course, Jenna didn't leave it at that. She kept texting, trying to guilt trip me, saying how Laura was hurting and needed time, and maybe if I reached out, things could be different. But I wasn't having it. I told her straight up, "We're done. It's over. Let it go." That was the last time I heard from her, for a while anyway. Then, one day, I'm at the restaurant, just trying to get through the dinner rush, when my mom comes over to me with this look on her face. You know that look moms give you when they've got something to say, but they're trying to figure out how to say it? Yeah, it was one of those. She pulls me aside and says, "Ethan, I talked to Laura today." I just stared at her like, why? My mom goes, "Well, she called me, said she wanted to apologize for how things ended and just wanted to check in." Now, I don't know about you, but when your ex calls your mom to check in, that's a major red flag. I told my mom, "Look, I don't care if she's sorry or not. We're done. There's no reason for her to be calling you." My mom sighed and said, I know, but she seemed really upset. She said she feels like you hate her now, and she didn't want things to end this way." Here we go again. I had to explain to my mom the whole situation again, how Laura was the one who called it off, how she's been telling people I kicked her out, and how I just want to move on. I could tell my mom felt torn, but she finally got it. She agreed to not get involved anymore, but honestly, it was frustrating that I even had to have that conversation. After that, things started to calm down for real. I didn't hear from Jenna, Laura stopped calling my mom, and I finally started to feel like I could move on. I even started hanging out with my friends again, going out for drinks after work, just trying to get back to some sense of normalcy. But just when I thought everything was finally settling down, something else happened. One night, I was at the bar with a couple of buddies when one of them, Mark, pulls me aside and says, "Hey man, you're not going to like this, but I saw Laura the other day with some guy." Now, I'll be real with you. I wasn't expecting to feel anything when he said that, but for some reason it hit me. Like, I knew we were done, but hearing that she'd moved on already? That was rough. I asked Mark, "Who was he?" And he said he didn't know, but they looked pretty close. That was all I needed to hear. The next few days were weird. I didn't text Laura or anything, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. Not because I wanted her back, but because it felt like this chapter of my life was really truly over now. She was moving on, and I guess that meant I had to as well. Looking back, I realize now that Laura probably checked out long before we even broke up. Maybe that's why it all felt so sudden when it happened. Because for her, it wasn't sudden. She'd been planning it, thinking about it, and by the time she ended it, she was already halfway out the door. It took me a while to accept that. It's hard to admit that someone you cared about stopped caring way before you did. But you know what? In the end, it's for the best. We weren't right for each other, and trying to force it would have just made things worse. Now, I'm focused on myself. I'm not looking for a relationship anytime soon, and I'm definitely not in any rush to jump back into the dating pool. I'm just trying to enjoy the little things again, hanging out with friends, focusing on work, and getting my life back to where I want it to be. And as for Laura, I wish her the best, I really do, but I'm done with the guilt trips, the manipulation, and the drama. I'm moving on. Update 3. So here we are, months later, and I'm finally feeling like I can breathe again. It's been a hell of a ride, and honestly, I'm just glad it's over. But just when I thought everything was behind me, I got hit with one last curve. Surprise. Yeah, because of course something else had to happen, right? So here's what went down. I was at work one day, just doing my thing at the restaurant, when one of our regulars, Tom, comes in. Now, Tom's an older guy. Been coming to the restaurant for years, real friendly with my family, always chatting with my parents whenever he's in. But this time, he's got this weird look on his face. He pulls me aside and says, "Hey, Ethan, I saw Laura the other night." At this point, I'm thinking, all right, whatever. People see Laura all the time. What's new? But then he drops this little nugget. "She was with your cousin, Chris." I swear, my brain short-circuited for a second. I'm like, wait, what? Chris? No way. I mean, Chris and I are family. We grew up together. There's no way he'd be hanging out with my ex-fiancée, right? But Tom was dead serious. He goes, "Yeah, man, they were at that new bar downtown. Seemed real close, if you know what I mean." I didn't know what to say. Part of me didn't believe it, but another part of me was like, well, this is Laura we're talking about, so who knows? I just kind of laughed it off and told Tom I'd check it out later. But inside, I was boiling. I had no idea what to think. Why would Chris, of all people, be hanging out with Laura? And why didn't anyone tell me? So, naturally, I did what any guy would do. I went straight to the source. I texted Chris that night, asked him what was up. I didn't want to accuse him of anything outright, so I kept it casual like, "Hey man, heard you were out with Laura the other night. What's going on there?" It took him a while to respond, and when he did, the response was, well, let's just say it wasn't what I was expecting. He goes, "Yeah, we've been hanging out a bit. I didn't want to tell you because I knew it'd be awkward." Awkward? Awkward doesn't even begin to cover it. My cousin, my flesh and blood, was hanging out with my ex-fiancé behind my back, and he thought it was just a little awkward. I was pissed, like beyond pissed. I shot back, "Dude, what the hell? You couldn't give me a heads up?" He tried to play it off, saying it wasn't a big deal and that they were just friends, nothing serious. But come on, we all know what just friends means, especially when it's between an ex and your cousin. I wasn't buying it, and I told him straight up that I felt betrayed. He started backpedaling, saying he didn't mean for it to happen, that they just bumped into each other one night, and things kind of escalated from there. Apparently, they'd been talking for a few weeks now. Weeks! I had to sit with that for a while. I mean, how do you even process something like that? It wasn't just about Laura anymore. It was about family. Someone I trusted, someone I grew up with, decided it was cool to start hanging out with my ex like nothing was wrong. And honestly, it hurt more than I thought it would. A few days later, I got a text from Laura herself. She didn't even try to ease into it, just hit me with, "Hey, I heard you're upset about me and Chris. Can we talk?" I didn't want to talk to her. I didn't want to hear her excuses or explanations or whatever she was about to throw at me. But at the same time, I needed closure. I needed to know why she thought this was okay. So, against my better judgment, I agreed to meet up. We met at this coffee shop we used to go to when we were still together. Bad idea, by the way. Too many memories. Anyway, she sits down and immediately launches into this whole spiel about how she didn't mean to hurt me, how she and Chris just clicked, and that she didn't want things to get weird between us. I sat there trying to keep my cool, but honestly, I just wanted to walk out. I told her, "It's not about you guys clicking. It's about respect. You ended things with me, and now you're hanging out with my cousin? You didn't think that might be a problem?" She gave me some crap about how she didn't plan for this to happen, that it just did, and that she didn't want to hurt me, but I wasn't buying it. I told her straight up, "You made your choice. You don't get to walk back into my life and act like everything's cool now." The conversation didn't go anywhere. She tried to justify it, I wasn't having it, and we both walked away more frustrated than before. I didn't feel any better, but at least I got to say my piece. After that, I blocked her number. I didn't want to deal with her anymore. As for Chris, we had it out too. He called me a few days later, trying to clear the air. I let him talk, but I didn't hold back. I told him he broke my trust, and that's not something you just bounce back from. He apologized, said he didn't mean for things to get messy, but I wasn't ready to forgive him. Family or not, there's a line you don't cross, and he crossed it. Since then, I've been keeping my distance from both of them. Chris still tries to text me now and then, but I haven't responded. Maybe one day I'll get over it, but right now, I need space. As for Laura, she's out of my life for good. I don't know if she's still with Chris, and honestly, I don't care. They can do whatever they want. I'm done. Looking back, this whole situation taught me a lot. Not just about relationships, but about people in general. You think you know someone, you think you can trust them, and then they go and do something like this. It messes with your head, but at the end of the day, you have to take care of yourself. You can't control what other people do, but you can control how you respond to it. And right now, my response is to walk away. I've got my own life to live, my own goals to chase, and I'm not letting this drama drag me down anymore. Fiancée took a break to tour Europe with her college friends, so I canceled the wedding. All right, here goes nothing. So me and Sarah had been together for about 5 years, engaged for almost 3. Things were going all right, or at least I thought they were. We had a wedding date set, everything was booked, and I was under the impression we were on the same page. Guess I was wrong about that. See, about 6 weeks ago, she tells me she's going on this trip to Europe with her old college friends. It was like a trip of a lifetime kind of deal, or whatever she called it. I was fine with it. I mean, it wasn't like I was going to stop her from going on a trip with her friends, right? In fact, I even drove her to the airport, helped her with her bags, gave her a kiss goodbye, and wished her a fun time. That's when she hit me with it, the whole, "we need to take a break" thing. Now, it wasn't like she said, "let's sit down and talk about things." Nope. She just drops it on me as we're walking to the security line like it's no big deal. I remember thinking, what the hell do you mean, a break? But before I could even respond or ask questions, she's off in the line, waving goodbye, and that was it. I didn't even process it fully at first. I got back in the car and drove home, thinking it was maybe some weird comment she made because she was nervous about the trip. But then I started calling her, just to check in. And guess what? Blocked. Like, straight up blocked on everything. I couldn't call her, text her, nothing. I checked social media to see if maybe she posted something or gave an update on her trip. Blocked there too. That's when it started to sink in that this whole break thing wasn't some casual comment. She meant it, She really just left for Europe and decided to cut me off without even talking about it. I tried to give it a few days. Maybe she'd calm down. Maybe she'd realize she was being ridiculous. But after 5 days of complete silence, I was done. I made up my mind right then and there. The wedding was off. And you know what? I felt good about that decision. Why should I be with someone who thinks they can just walk away whenever they feel like it? I wasn't going to sit around and wait for her to decide when she was ready to be in a relationship again. Hell no. She made her choice, so I made mine. I canceled everything. The venue, the catering, the flowers, whatever we had planned for the wedding, I pulled the plug. And then, I took it one step further and decided she wasn't moving in with me either, which was supposed to happen in March. Nope, she could figure out her living situation when she got back from her little vacation because it wasn't going to be with me. Weeks went by, and I didn't hear a word from her. Not a single message, not a call, nothing. Then, one day out of nowhere, she calls me. I didn't even know it was her at first because she must have used a different number or something. She says she's getting back on Thursday morning, gives me her flight details like I'm supposed to care, and acts like everything is just fine, like she didn't ghost me for 6 weeks. I paused for a second and then said, "What's that got to do with me?" And man, the silence on the other end of the phone was golden. She didn't know how to respond. I didn't give her a chance to explain either. I blocked her, just like she did to me, and that was the end of it. Or at least I thought it was. Later that day, I figured it was time to let people know what was up, especially since the wedding was off and all. We had a group chat with some of our friends and family, so I just posted a quick message saying, "Hey, just letting everyone know the wedding is canceled, and so is our relationship." I didn't think it would blow up like it did, but man, people had questions. Everyone started asking what happened, so I laid it out for them. I told them how Sarah went off to Europe, decided we needed a break without even asking me, and then blocked me for 6 weeks. They were all pretty shocked. Some people were even mad on my behalf, which honestly felt kind of nice. You never really know how people will react when you drop news like that, but it was good to have some support. Around 2 p.m., Sarah finally decided to chime in. She didn't say much at first. Just asked me to call her so we could talk about everything. I wasn't having it. I told her we could talk right there in the group chat if she wanted to explain herself. She didn't like that, though. Said something like, "This is between us, not for everyone else." Yeah, no. She made this public the second she walked out of my life without a word. She tried messaging me a few more times, but I just kept it short. I wasn't in the mood to listen to her excuses. By 6 p.m., she was begging me to pick her up from the airport so we could talk this out. Like, seriously? As if nothing had happened? I told her straight up, that was your plan, not mine. None of this was my plan. And I meant it. I wasn't going to go running to the airport like some fool after everything she pulled. To be honest, part of me was still waiting for her to drop some kind of explanation that would make it all make sense. I guess I wanted to believe there was a reason, something that would justify why she treated me like this. But as the hours went by, I realized there wasn't going to be a reason. She wasn't going to come back with some grand apology or tell me there was some misunderstanding. She made her choice, and I had to live with that. So the next few days, I focused on getting my life back on track. I wasn't about to let this ruin me. I started going through our shared accounts, making sure everything was split up, and yeah, I changed the locks on my apartment. Last thing I needed was her showing up unannounced, thinking she could just waltz back into my life. I was done with that. I even started looking at some trips of my own. I figured if she could run off to Europe for 6 weeks, maybe I should take some time for myself too. I deserved it after all the crap she put me through. Anyway, that's where things stand right now. She'll be back in a couple of days, but I'm not going to be there waiting. She can figure out her own way home. As far as I'm concerned, this chapter of my life is over, and I'm moving on to better things. All right, so let me tell you what happened next, because things got wild pretty quick. After I made my peace with the fact that the wedding was off, I figured it was just a matter of time before Sarah tried to reach out again. I was ready for it, but what I didn't expect was how fast she'd try to play the victim card. It all started when I got this message from one of our mutual friends, Emily. Now, Emily's cool. She's always been straight with me. But this time she was a bit hesitant, like she didn't really want to get involved. But she sends me a screenshot from another group chat, one that I wasn't in, obviously. It was Sarah talking to some of her friends, trying to paint this whole thing like I was the one who overreacted. Can you believe that? In the chat, she's telling them how stressed she was about the wedding and how she needed space to clear her head. She even said something like, "I didn't mean for the break to last that long, but I thought he would understand." And then there was this gem. I just needed to figure out if I was ready for marriage, but he canceled everything before I could talk to him. I almost laughed when I read that. Like she blocked me on everything for 6 weeks, then acts like I'm the one who didn't give her a chance to talk? Nah, that's not how this works. I felt my blood boiling just reading the messages. She was playing the whole poor me card, telling everyone that I was being irrational and rushed into canceling the wedding. At this point, I knew I couldn't just let her keep running her mouth, making me look like the bad guy. So I decided to address it head on. I wasn't going to let her rewrite history. I jumped into the main group chat where all our close friends and family were still buzzing from the wedding cancellation news. Everyone was trying to figure out what the hell was going on, and I figured it was time to clear the air. I posted a message that said, "Look, I just want everyone to know the truth here. Sarah decided we were taking a break without talking to me, blocked me for 6 weeks, and now she's acting like this is some kind of miscommunication. I canceled the wedding because I wasn't going to sit around waiting for someone who didn't respect me enough to even have a conversation." Immediately, people started replying, offering their support and saying how messed up the whole situation was. Sarah was silent in the chat for a good hour or so after that, but then she finally came in with some weak excuse about how she didn't think it would go this far and how she never meant to hurt anyone. Again, no accountability, no real apology, just trying to save face. One of my buddies, Jake, jumped in and called her out right there in front of everyone. He was like, "Sarah, you can't just drop a break on someone and disappear for weeks and expect everything to be fine when you come back. That's not how relationships work." Honestly, I was relieved someone else said it because I was getting tired of defending myself at this point. Now here's where things got interesting. Sarah's friend Megan, who I always suspected was kind of shady, decided to back Sarah up. Megan starts saying how Sarah's been through a lot and how wedding pressure can really mess with your head. She was trying to make it sound like Sarah was the victim of stress and anxiety, which, okay, I get that planning a wedding is stressful, but come on, that's not an excuse to block your fiancé and go radio silent for 6 weeks while you're partying in Europe. Megan goes on, saying stuff like, "You should have given Sarah more time to process everything, and maybe you acted too quickly by canceling the wedding." That's when I lost it. I wasn't about to sit there and listen to some third-party person who wasn't even in the relationship try to tell me how to handle it. So I replied, "Megan, with all due respect, you don't know the half of it. This isn't about wedding stress. It's about the fact that Sarah blocked me, cut me off completely, and didn't bother to talk to me once during the whole trip. I tried. I called, texted, and got nothing. How much more time was I supposed to give her? Another 6 weeks? A year? If Sarah didn't want to be with me, she could have said that. But instead, she disappeared and expected me to just sit around waiting. That's not how it works." The chat went quiet after that. I think everyone was starting to realize just how messed up the whole situation was. Even Megan didn't have much to say after that. A couple of days passed, and I thought maybe things would calm down. But nope. I get another call from Sarah's sister, Rachel. Now, Rachel and I had always gotten along pretty well, so I figured maybe she was calling to check in or something. But as soon as I answered, she went straight into, "Why did you cancel the wedding without talking to Sarah first?" I was stunned. I didn't expect Rachel to take Sarah's side, especially after everything. I told her, "Rachel, your sister blocked me. How was I supposed to talk to her when she literally cut me off?" Rachel didn't really have an answer to that, but she kept pushing, saying Sarah was heartbroken and that I should have waited for her to come back and talk things through. At that point, I had enough. I told Rachel straight up, "Look, I get that you want to defend your sister, but what she did was wrong. She didn't give me any say in the whole break thing, and I'm not going to wait around for someone who doesn't respect me. If Sarah wants to explain herself, she knows how to reach me, but I'm not going to be the one to fix this." Rachel tried to say more, but I just told her I had to go and hung up. I wasn't about to keep having the same conversation with every single person Sarah sent my way. That night, I got another message from Sarah. This time, she was apologizing. Well, sort of. She said she was sorry for how things went down, but didn't take any responsibility for the choices she made. It was one of those half apologies where she tried to make it sound like we were both at fault. I didn't reply. There was no point. She'd made her bed, and now she had to lie in it. I wasn't going to go back and forth with her anymore. After that, I made sure to block her everywhere again, just to make sure there wouldn't be any more drama. I wasn't interested in hearing her excuses or letting her drag this out any longer. At the end of the day, I realized something. I dodged a bullet. If this is how Sarah acted when things got tough, I can't even imagine what it would have been like to be married to her. I felt bad for the time we wasted, but I was glad it ended before it got any worse. Now I could move on, and that's exactly what I plan to do. Update 1. All right. So after all the drama with Sarah and her trying to guilt trip me into reconsidering the wedding, which by the way didn't work, I thought things would quiet down for a bit. But nope, not in my life. Turns out, I had way more coming my way than I could have expected. About a week after I blocked Sarah for the last time, I get this random call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer it because at this point, I wasn't in the mood for more drama. But for some reason, I picked up. And guess who it was? Sarah's mom. Yeah, her mom. Like, what the hell? Now, Sarah's mom, Lisa, had always been one of those people who was super sweet to your face, but you could tell she had this whole passive-aggressive vibe just under the surface. She was the type of person who would give you a compliment, but somehow, it felt like an insult. You know what I mean? Anyway, Lisa starts off the conversation all friendly, like nothing had happened. "Hi, sweetheart. How are you doing?" she says, like we hadn't just canceled a wedding and blocked her daughter from my life. I wasn't about to play games, so I kept it short. "I'm fine, Lisa. What's going on?" That's when she starts with the whole guilt trip. She says, "Oh, we were so looking forward to the wedding, and this whole thing has really devastated Sarah. You know she's been crying every day since she got back, right? She's just been a mess." Now, I wasn't about to let her make me feel bad for Sarah, not after everything she pulled, so I told her straight up, "Lisa, I'm sorry Sarah's upset, but she made her choices. I didn't call off the wedding for no reason." And then, Lisa hits me with this. "Well, maybe you overreacted a bit. You know, Sarah was just nervous about the whole thing, and sometimes people make mistakes when they're stressed. Don't you think you should give her a second chance?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I mean, she was acting like Sarah blocking me for 6 weeks and disappearing was just a minor mistake. I wasn't having it. "Lisa," I said, "this wasn't just nerves. She literally blocked me on everything and went off to Europe without saying a word. That's not something you just brush off. If Sarah was having doubts, she should have talked to me, not shut me out." But Lisa wasn't done yet. Oh no. She kept pushing. "I know it seems bad, but think about all the years you've been together. You've had such a good relationship. Don't you want to try and save it? I'm sure once Sarah explains everything, you'll understand." At this point, I was getting pretty annoyed. It was like Lisa wasn't even listening to what I was saying. She was so focused on getting me to take Sarah back that she wasn't considering how I felt. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm, and said, "Lisa, with all due respect, Sarah had 6 weeks to reach out to me, and she didn't. I've already made up my mind. The wedding is off, and that's final." I thought that would be the end of it, but Lisa wasn't done yet. She goes, "Well, if you won't talk to Sarah, at least come over for dinner so we can talk as a family. Maybe we can work through this together." I was speechless. She was inviting me to their family dinner, like this was some kind of minor argument that could be solved over a plate of spaghetti. I knew this wasn't going anywhere, so I told her, "Thanks for the offer, but I think it's best if we all just move on." And with that, I hung up. You'd think that would be the end of it, right? Wrong. The next day, I get a message from Sarah's dad. Now let me tell you, her dad, Tom, is one of those old school guys who thinks he's always right. He's never really liked me, but he tolerated me because Sarah and I were together. So when I saw the message from him, I knew it wasn't going to be a friendly chat. He basically laid into me, saying how I was throwing away a good thing, and that I was ruining Sarah's life by not giving her a chance to explain. He even said something like, "Men don't act like this. You should be standing by your fiancée, not running at the first sign of trouble." That really pissed me off. I mean, I was standing by Sarah for years, and this is how I get treated? I didn't reply to Tom's message because I knew it would just turn into a pointless argument, and honestly, I was over it. But that wasn't the worst part. A couple of days later, I get a message from Sarah. She used some other number to reach out, and it was a long message, like multiple paragraphs long. She went on about how she was sorry for everything, how she didn't mean to hurt me, and how she realized she made a mistake. She said she was confused about the wedding and needed time to think but didn't know how to tell me, so she panicked and blocked me. Then she dropped the big one. She said she still wanted to get married. Yeah, you read that right. After all of this, after blocking me, ghosting me for 6 weeks, and trying to blame it all on wedding nerves, she still wanted to marry me. It was like she was living in some fantasy where everything could just go back to normal with a simple apology. I sat there staring at the message for a while, not really knowing what to say. Part of me was still angry. No, actually, most of me was still angry. But there was a small part of me that felt, I don't know, sad, I guess? Like, we'd spent years together and this is how it all ended. It wasn't how I pictured things going, that's for sure. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that this wasn't something I could forgive. It wasn't just about the wedding or the trip to Europe. It was about trust. Sarah had broken that trust, and no amount of apologies or explanations was going to fix it. I couldn't marry someone who thought it was okay to just disappear when things got tough, so I did what I should have done from the start. I blocked the number she used to text me, deleted the message, and moved on. For real this time. After all of that, I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I wasn't tied down by Sarah's guilt trips or her family's pressure anymore. I could finally focus on myself and what I wanted for the future. And honestly, it felt pretty damn good. Update 2. Alright, so you'd think after I blocked Sarah and her family again, things would finally settle down, right? Wrong. Of course not. Because that would be too easy. I swear, it's like they just couldn't let go of the fact that the wedding was off, and they kept coming at me from every angle, like they were trying to wear me down or something. Spoiler, it didn't work. A couple of days after Sarah's last attempt to reach out, I get a text from someone else. This time, it's from one of Sarah's bridesmaids, Katie. Now, Katie and I weren't exactly close. I mean, she was always nice enough when we hung out as a group, but she was more Sarah's friend than mine. So when I saw her name pop up, I was immediately suspicious. The text started off innocent enough. She was asking how I was doing, saying she'd heard about the breakup, blah, blah, blah. But I wasn't stupid. I knew she wasn't just checking in for no reason. So I kept my response short, something like, "Yeah, I'm fine, just dealing with everything one day at a time." And then she hits me with it. "I think you should hear Sarah out." Here we go again. I stared at my phone for a minute, trying to figure out if I should even respond. Part of me wanted to just block Katie too and move on, but I was curious. I wanted to see where this was going. So I asked her why she thought that. Katie goes on this long rant about how Sarah's been really struggling and how she's been crying every day since she got back from Europe. She said Sarah was too scared to reach out to me directly because she thought I wouldn't listen. Apparently, Sarah had been telling her friends that she messed up big time but didn't know how to fix it. I sighed, feeling that frustration bubble up again. "Katie, I've heard all of this already. I gave Sarah chances to explain herself and she didn't. She blocked me for 6 weeks and then expected everything to be fine when she got back. That's not something I can just forget." Katie tried again, saying how Sarah just needed space and didn't mean to hurt me. But the more she talked, the more I realized what was really happening. Sarah had sent Katie to do her dirty work, thinking maybe I'd listen to someone else. It was like she didn't even have the guts to face me herself anymore. I was done. I told Katie, "Look, I appreciate you trying to help, but this isn't something that can be fixed with a few apologies. It's over, and that's it." I could tell she wanted to keep pushing, but I didn't give her the chance. I blocked her right after that, and then, just when I thought I was finally in the clear, I get another message. This time, it's from one of Sarah's cousins, Mark. Now, I hadn't heard from Mark in months, and out of nowhere, he's texting me, asking if we can meet up to talk about everything. At this point, I was so fed up with everyone trying to drag me back into Sarah's drama that I almost didn't respond. But curiosity got the better of me. I wanted to know what angle Mark was going to come at me with, so I agreed to meet him for coffee. When I showed up at the cafe, Mark was already there, looking a little nervous. We sat down, and after some awkward small talk, he finally got to the point. "Look, man, I know this whole thing with Sarah has been a mess. I just wanted to check in with you and see if there's any way you two could work things out." I almost laughed. "Mark, it's done. There's nothing to work out. She made her choices and I made mine." He looked uncomfortable, like he knew he was about to say something I wasn't going to like. "Yeah, I get that. But here's the thing. Sarah's been talking about how she thinks she made a mistake. And, well, she's been hinting that maybe you guys could try again if you gave it some time." I put my coffee down, trying to keep my cool. "Mark, no offense, but Sarah had her chance. She made a mistake, fine. But she didn't just make a mistake. She ghosted me for weeks. She cut me off like I didn't even exist. That's not something you can just bounce back from." He nodded, but I could tell he wasn't really hearing me. "Yeah, but what if she's serious about fixing things? She's been talking about wanting to make it up to you." I shook my head. "Mark, I appreciate you coming here and trying to help, but it's not going to happen. If Sarah wants to move on, that's fine. But I'm not interested in picking up where we left off." We sat there in awkward silence for a bit after that, both of us kind of knowing that this conversation wasn't going anywhere. Eventually, Mark shrugged and said, "I get it. I just thought I'd give it a shot." I finished my coffee, stood up and said, "Thanks for trying, man, but it's over. It's time for both of us to move on." He gave me a half-hearted smile and we said our goodbyes. After that, I thought maybe, just maybe, that would be the last of it. I mean, how many people could Sarah possibly send after me, right? Well, apparently I was wrong again. because the very next day, I get a message from Sarah's aunt, of all people. Now I barely knew this woman. We'd met at a couple of family events, exchanged polite small talk, but that was it. So when I saw her name pop up on my phone, I knew something was seriously wrong with Sarah's side of the family. Her aunt starts off by saying how she heard about the breakup and wanted to see how I was doing. At this point, I was so over it that I just straight up asked her, "Did Sarah send you?" Her response? Well, not exactly, but she's really been struggling, and I thought I could help mediate things between you two. I almost threw my phone across the room. "Mediation?" I texted back. "There's nothing to mediate, we're done. I don't know how much clearer I can make it." She didn't give up, though. She said something about how love is worth fighting for, and how I shouldn't throw away years of a good relationship over a misunderstanding. That's when I realized that Sarah had probably been feeding her family this whole sob story, making it seem like I was the one who overreacted. I didn't even bother replying this time. I blocked her and decided that was it. No more conversations, no more explanations, no more giving people the chance to drag me back into that toxic mess. I was done. For real this time. After that, things finally quieted down. No more texts, no more calls, no more random family members showing up in my inbox trying to guilt me into taking Sarah back. It felt good, like I could finally breathe again without the weight of her drama hanging over me. And honestly, for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was actually moving forward. No more waiting for apologies that didn't mean anything, no more wondering what could have been, just me, focusing on what's next. And that's exactly what I needed. Update 3. Alright, so here's how everything finally wrapped up. And yeah, things didn't end quietly, of course. You'd think after blocking Sarah, her mom, her bridesmaids, and pretty much her entire family, things would just die down. Well, that's not what happened. Because Sarah, she decided to make one last move. And it was the one that made me realize just how far she'd go to try and win me back. Or at least get her way. So about a month after everything went down, I get this letter in the mail. Yep, a literal letter, like it's the 1800s or something. I almost didn't open it because who even sends letters anymore? But the handwriting looked familiar, and I figured, why not? Maybe it was some final attempt from Sarah, but honestly, I wasn't expecting anything too crazy. Boy, was I wrong. I opened the letter, and it was this long, handwritten message from Sarah, like pages long. She poured her heart out, saying she missed me, she regretted everything, blah, blah, blah. But here's the kicker. Wait, I can't say that. Here's the wild part. She didn't just say she was sorry. She started talking about how she wanted to meet up again and how she still had the key to my apartment. Let me repeat that. She said she still had the key to my apartment, the same key I had completely forgotten she even had. My stomach dropped. I mean, I'd already changed the locks once when this all started, but I hadn't even thought about the fact that Sarah might still think she had access to my place. I immediately got up, checked the locks, again, and started thinking about what to do next. But that's not all. The letter wasn't just some apology. She was basically laying out a plan for how we could start fresh. She said she'd been talking to her mom about how we should go to couples counseling, and she thought if we could just meet up and talk face to face, we could work things out. At this point, I was more annoyed than anything. Like, she seriously thought this was a good idea? After blocking me, ghosting me, sending her entire family after me, and then acting like I was the one who needed to fix things. I couldn't believe it. But it gets better. Toward the end of the letter, she mentioned that she'd already started making arrangements for us to meet with a counselor. Like she had already booked the appointments without even asking me. The audacity, right? She didn't ask if I was interested, didn't check in with me at all. Just assumed I'd go along with it. I was fuming. I couldn't believe she still didn't get it. After everything, she was still trying to control the situation, still trying to get me to bend to her will. It was like she thought if she just planned everything out, I'd eventually give in. So I sat down and wrote her a letter back. I figured if she wanted to play the old-fashioned game of sending letters, I'd go along with it one last time. But this time, I made things clear. I told her in no uncertain terms that we were done. There was no counseling, no second chances, no meeting up to talk. I told her to return the key, even though I'd already changed the locks again, and that she needed to move on because I sure as hell was. I sent the letter back and felt pretty good about finally shutting that door for good. I thought that was going to be the end of it. But nope. A week later, I get another letter from her. This time it was much shorter. She didn't argue or try to convince me to go to counseling. She just said she understood where I was coming from, but she still thought we should talk. And then she said something that really freaked me out. She mentioned that she'd driven by my apartment a couple of times and saw that I wasn't home. She didn't say why she was driving by or what she was doing, but the fact that she was checking up on me like that sent chills down my spine. At that point, I knew I had to do something more drastic. I wasn't about to let this turn into some creepy stalking situation. I called my landlord and asked about getting extra security, maybe even cameras installed. I wasn't playing around anymore. And just when I thought things couldn't get any weirder, I get a call from my mom. Now my mom knew about everything that had happened, and she'd been super supportive throughout all this. But she called me to say that Sarah had visited her, like, showed up at her house unannounced, asking to talk about us. I almost dropped my phone when she told me that. Sarah had gone to my mom's house to try and get her to convince me to take her back. I was pissed. Not only was Sarah crossing boundaries with me, but now she was dragging my family into it, trying to manipulate the situation through them. My mom, bless her heart, didn't fall for it. She told Sarah that I'd already made my decision and that she needed to respect it. Sarah apparently got emotional and started crying, but my mom didn't back down. She told her that it was time to move on. After that call, I realized I needed to take one final step to end this for good. I filed for a restraining order. I didn't want to, but I felt like I had no choice. Sarah was getting too close, and I needed to protect my space and my family. When Sarah got served with the paperwork, she finally backed off. No more letters, no more visits, nothing. It was like she finally got the message. I didn't feel good about having to go that far, but I knew it was the right thing to do. And honestly, after everything that happened, I learned a lot about myself. I learned that it's okay to stand up for your boundaries, even when people don't want to respect them. I learned that you don't owe anyone endless chances, especially when they've broken your trust. And most importantly, I learned that moving on isn't just about walking away. It's about protecting your peace and your future. So yeah, that's it. That's how it all ended. I'm finally free from all the drama, and I'm moving forward with my life. It wasn't easy, but I made it through. And now, I'm just focused on what's next. No more looking back.